Okay, so I am really into American Horror Story. I wait every week for a new episode to come on. It comes on Wednesday on Fox, well, FX. And I'm basically going to do a breakdown of the story because no one besides about two people I know and some people on Tumblr, not even a lot of people on Tumblr, but nobody really talks about it, so I just assume no one watches it. Okay, so the story starts with the empty haunted house, and two little bad ginger boys want to go in there and start wrecking stuff. And so there's this little girl on the outside, and she's pretty creepy because she's telling them, you can't go in there, you're going to die in there. And of course, they threaten her, and they go in there anyway, and they start wrecking stuff. And of course, they die one by one inside that house. And that's how we start. And then we're brought to Vivian, and she's in the gynecologist, and she just had a miscarriage. And on top of that, the whole situation is that Ben, her husband, has been unfaithful to her, and he's been cheating, and so their whole family is broken apart, and Violet is a child of a marriage that's not working. And so that's why they moved to Los Angeles from wherever they were into the house where they end up residing, which ends up being haunted. So they don't originally know that the house is haunted, but when they're in the process of buying the house, the real estate agent says that she's required to tell them that the previous owners of the house did die in the house, and it was a murder-suicide. And that kind of freaks the Vivian and Ben Harmon out, but upon hearing this news, of course, Violet, she's drawn to evil and darkness and stuff. That just made her want to live in the house even more. So she said, we'll take it. And they looked at her like, what the heck is wrong with you? But they did it anyways because, of course, I'm just assuming they want to suck up to her because of the situation. So now we follow Violet on her first day at her new school. And she runs on trouble on the first day. Typical of an angsty teenager. She's walking into school, she's smoking her cigarette, got her little hipster hat on top of her head, and this crackhead just jumps across and takes the cigarette and tells her that she wants to make her eat the cigarette. And her friends, the crackhead's friends, are trying to back her up, saying her grandmother died of lung cancer, that's why she takes it so seriously. And Violet's just like, well, I don't give a. And so the cokehead attacks Violet, trying to force her to eat the cigarette, and Violet spits in her face and takes off. Flash forward back to the house. Okay, so fast forward a little bit. We're back in the house with Vivian. She's unpacking, and she's taking down the horrid, ugly wallpaper from the walls. And she looks up, and it's the little girl, the next door neighbor's daughter, that was in the beginning of the show. And she looks up and tells her, you're going to die in here. And of course, Vivian is just like, what the heck is you doing in my house? And then Constance, the little girl's mother, walks in there, and she's like, you can't just go walking in people's houses. What are you doing? You're supposed to be watching Dora the Explorer. Okay, this is just like so awkward. They're having this whole conversation. They're not even addressing Vivian, who's just staring at them like, why are you in my house? And then Vivian never really asks them, why are you in my house? She just accepts it. But apparently the little girl is going to be doing this a lot. She's going to bust into their house because she has some sort of draw to the house. Constance gives us her whole story about why she moved there, and she didn't get famous. She wanted to get famous, but they wanted her to be new and blah, blah, blah. Vivian doesn't really care. She just wants her out of her house. And so Constance drops off a box of sage to ward off spirits, which is a red flag right there, and then she leaves, saying she shudders because there's too many bad memories in that house, and then she leaves. So they took us through Violet, they took us through Vivian, and now they're showing us about Ben. Now, Ben is a psychiatrist. He treats people out of his own house, which is stupid to begin with, because why are you going to bring crazy people into your house around your family? Well, he's with a patient right now called Tate Langdon. And Tate Langdon is a psycho who basically, he's a serial killer who shot up his school, and he kills people who he likes because he feels as though he's taking them away from the evils of the world. because it's a sick, sick world. While Ben is counseling Tate, his daughter Violet is in the bathroom cutting herself. And then you see Tate pop his head in the door telling her she's supposed to cut vertically because they can't stitch that up. And if she didn't want anybody to see, she should have locked the door. So that's the beginning of Tate and Violet. He advises her about suicide. Back to Vivian. You see her outside messing with stuff, and then you see this old woman approach her, telling her that she's the housekeeper for the house. And Vivian's like, I didn't know this place came with a housekeeper. We're already getting this house for like half of what it's worth. But the lady comes in there and she tells her that she worked for basically everybody who's lived in that house over the years, and she they die and she always remains. And so Vivian's like, okay, then why, okay, tell me about the people who lived here before. And so they're just having a conversation about the people who lived there before in the house. And that's when Ben walks in, and Ben sees her as like this young, gorgeous, redheaded woman. And Vivian sees her as an old woman with one messed up eye. And that's how you know that Maura must be a spirit of the house, because she can distort how different people view her. And so, of course, Maura is hired, and Ben is like, you would seriously hire this gorgeous chick to work in the house? And that's what he's thinking, but of course he doesn't say that. But then we go back to Ben's counseling Tate. And Tate is telling Ben how he is attracted to his daughter. And Ben doesn't like that very much. Tate is found with Violet, and they're both discussing like how they cut themselves and the horrors of their schools and all that. And Tate's basically sympathizing with Violet, which makes her fall for him. And Ben Harmon, he sees Tate like with Violet, and he's like, get away from her, get out, you're not supposed to be in here. And so Tate throws a temper tantrum and he runs out like a little kid. And